In PARSHA's SHMOS, we're beginning the second book. We've just finished PARSHA's Vayechi and beginning the new book of the book on the Exodus. So in Perek Daled, at the end of Perek Daled, Pasuk of Daled is a very interesting exchange. It's the Hiva Derech Ba'malon. It was Moshe Rabbeinu was on his way to Mitzrayim. And the Medrash tells us, the Pasuk tells us that the angel wanted to kill him because he didn't do circumcision on his son. And why didn't Moshe Rabbeinu do circumcision on his son? Because he felt that it was in a dilemma. On one hand, God told him to go to Mitzrayim, so he had to go. On the other hand, if he did circumcision on his son, he put his son in danger. So there's a whole discussion in the Mefarshim exactly what was the issue, but the bottom line is Zipporah saved the day. So the Torah tells us Vatigach Zipporah Sur Vatichros is Arla's Binah, and Zipporah went ahead and took the tzor, took the sharp stone. That's very relevant halach l'maisa in terms of what type of instrument you use for bris milah. But Tichros is Arlos Bana, and they had the milah done, and basically Moshe's life was saved. So, from the simple reading of the Chumash, we never paskin based on what it says in the Chumash, halach l'maisa, but from the simple reading of the Chumash, it says that Tikach Zipporah. Zipporah did the circumcision. So, the question the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, Daf Chav Zayin Amud Aleph raises, is a woman permitted to do a circumcision on that? So actually the Gemara over there first talks about a guy, a Gentile, doing a circumcision. So the Gemara quotes different psukim Atah, that it's only for someone has to be part of the tribe, it only has to be a Jew. Another one quotes Himo Yimo. So everyone agrees a guy cannot do circumcision. It's a machlokes in the Gemara which pasuk. And then the practical difference is whether a woman could do milah or not. So there's a machlokes in the Gemara. So the Gemara asks, halach l'maisa, we paskin b'shas hadchat, that a woman can do a milah. If there's no one else, then you could use a woman. But if the Gemara wants to know, according to the opinion that says in the Gemara that a woman cannot perform the circumcision, how do you explain Vatikach Zipporah? It says Zipporah did it. So the Gemara gives two answers. One answer is Sha'amra l'misha acher SHMOS b'na, that she appointed a shliach. She didn't do it herself. She appointed a shliach, even though the pasuk says Vatikach Zipporah Vatichros, but the way the first answer the Gemara says that she appointed a messenger. And the second answer, V'ibas Ema that the Gemara tells us that she began the circumcision and Moshe Rabbeinu completed the circumcision. And so the two possible answers in the Gemara, if you assume that a woman is not kosher for the milah, so is it, according to answer number one, she appointed a messenger, and that's why she didn't do it. You're right, Isha isn't Sheru Amo. Or according to the second answer, she began the mitzvah, she began the milah, but she didn't finish it. And that's a discussion that's a discussion in Midrashim and other areas we've discussed whether beginning a mitzvah, completing a mitzvah, according to this answer, at least by milah, as long as one finished the mitzvah. The question is, what is beginning the mitzvah and what is finishing the mitzvah? The Gemara is not clear on what they mean. We know there are different parts to the circumcision. There's the milah, the actual cutting of the foreskin, There's the priya, the revealing, and then there's the third aspect of mitzitza is, but the Gemara says one who, a moel, who doesn't do a mitzitza, you throw him out. In other words, because it's Pashas HaGemara, it's because of health reasons. And therefore, because it doesn't say you throw him out if he messed up on the Mila and the Priya, so Pashas is for health issues, that's why you do the mitzitza. Even though many felt strongly that no, you have to do a mitzitza as part of the mitzvah. Some say to take itufei dama, that's part of it. But nevertheless, they point out by the circumcision that if it's a health issue, there are those who say that you don't necessarily have to do the mitzitza today. You could use other antibiotics in order to avoid the infections and getting the child sick. But to the different aspects to the Mila, that's what we have this discussion also. What's the beginning, what's the end? The Gemara in Shabbos, on Kuf Lamed Hey, I believe, or around there, when it talks about the question of Sitzin HaMa'akvin v'Sitzin She'ena Ma'akvin. The Gemara talks about you're in the middle of doing a bris Mila, or let's put it this way. There are different parts of the foreskin you could cut off. Certain skin is an obstacle in performing the mitzvah. If you do not cut off the skin that sits in a ma'akvin, you don't get the mitzvah. And there's another aspect where you cut off, you get the mitzvah, you just don't get the hiddur, you don't do it in its proper way. So, there's a discussion in the Gemara. Let's say if you're in the middle of doing a milah, and you realize you left out the sitzin she'ena ma'akvin, the ones that you don't have to do. So the Gemara says if you're still involved in the milah, go ahead and finish it. But if not, that's it. So the question is, what are we talking about? Why wouldn't you go back? So Rashi learned to talking about Shabbos. Okay, so we're talking about Shabbos, so you already fulfilled your mitzvah milah, so perhaps for hiddur mitzvah, that's why you can't go back. But the Rama learns his Gemara even during the week. So why don't you go back to the famous brisker Rav relevant to Hanukkah, that you can't separate the hiddur from the mitzvah. According to the Rambam, you only can do the hiddur mitzvah while you're still involved in the mitzvah. So whatever the beginning and whatever the end is, but the Gemara tells us Sipporah began the mitzvah, but Moshe Rabbeinu finished it. So we see the one who finishes the mitzvah gets credit for everything, and therefore even if your whole woman cannot do the milah, according to this opinion, you do get credit here since the man finished it. So it gives us an opportunity, since we're talking about Sipporah doing the bris milah, let's just discuss a couple of minutes about the issue of a woman's obligation in milah. It's clear, it's a machokas in the Gemara whether a woman is pasol. We paskin she's not pasol. That if there's no one else, a woman is permitted to do the milah. The question is she just as an option, or is a woman obligated to make sure that her son gets the circumcision? So that's a famous Gemara in Kedushin. How these two Gemaras fit in. The Gemara in Kedushin, Avodah Zarah, that's a separate, Tosas discusses at a separate chair. But there's a famous Gemara in Kedushin, Daf Chavtes, that the Gemara tells us, how do I know that a woman is not obligated in circumcising her son? So they quote the pasuk in Chumash, Kasher Tziva Oso v'lo Oso, that God commanded Abraham and not Sarah. So we see from here that a woman is exempt from the mitzvah of circumcising her son, because only Abraham was obligated in circumcising the son and not Sarah. So Tosas asks an obvious question: what do I need a special pasuk to teach me that a woman is not obligated in bris milah, kasher, tziva, oso v'lo osa? There's a much more general reason, without the pasuk I would know this. Why do I need a pasuk? Lamali kra. We already know that women are exempt from mitzvahs aseh shazman grama. Women are exempt from time-oriented mitzvahs. So if a woman are exempt from time-oriented mitzvahs, what do I need the pasuk asher tiva oso v'lo osaf? That's the famous question of Tosas and many other of the Rishonim. The Tosas in Kedusha Daf Chav Tes, he suggests the following answer. Now really, according to the opinion, I think it's Eliezer Bar Shimon, Nivamas, Ayin Beis around there, that Tosas quotes, according to the Manda Amar, that a Mila Shalom is Mana can be done at night. So according to that opinion, that we all know that Lachit you do a Mila on day 8, and we know night isn't kosher a Mila. But according to his opinion, it's only the first 8 days. Once after day 8, once you miss the mitzvah, then it's permitted even at night. So according to this opinion that Mila can even be done at night, so therefore Mila is not a Zman Grama, it's not a time-oriented mitzvah, hence I think a woman is obligated. Kamash one, I need the pasuk to teach me also below also. That's what Tosfos says. And then, however, Rabbi Akiva Eiger asks, what about Shabbos? You can't do a meal on Shabbos. You can if it's Bizman, if it's not day 8. A meal is not Docha Shabbos, so therefore it is a Zman Grama. So the answer is no. Even if you did a Mila on Shabbos, let's say after day 8, it's still, you might be a Machal Shabbos, but you still get your mitzvah of Mila. So the bottom line is, according to Tosfos saying, according to this opinion, Mila is the classic mitzvah aseh, is the classical non-time oriented mitzvah, because it can be done all night after day 8, and it can be done even on Shabbos. So therefore, it's a classic non-time oriented mitzvah. Hence, women would be obligated. I think a woman would be obligated in the obligation of circumcising her son. Whether she does it herself, that depends on the Gemara and Avodah Zarah. But whether a woman would be obligated at least in helping out and making sure it gets done. Kamash Balan, God commanded Abraham and not Sarah, so we see a woman is exempt. That's a Tosfos in Kedushin. Tosfos in Megillah gives a totally different answer. According to Tosfos in Megillah, Mila is a Zman Grama. If Mila is a Zman Grama, time-oriented mitzvah, what do I need a pasuk to tell me to exempt women? I already know it. What do I need kasher tiva osav lo osav? So Tosfos answers, because when do I say a woman, when would I have said, is a woman exempt in a mitzvah aseh shazman grama? That's in a classical, or a sukkah, lulav, a general one. But Mila is one of the few mitzvahs aseh that failure to participate, that in the Karban Pesach, Yechayev Karet. Since by not performing Mila, you have a Chayev Karet, and it's kind of like a lav, and therefore I might think a woman is only exempt from a Zman Grama she'ein bo Karet. But a Zman Grama she'yesh bo Karet, I would think a woman would still be Chayev. Kamash Malan, you need the Pesach also below Osah. So we have two different answers. According to Tosfos' first answer in Kedushin, according to that one opinion, Mila is not as man grama, and therefore I need a pasuk. But according to the way we pass like the Chachamim, that Mila is as man grama. So why do we need a pasuk? So therefore we need osa below osa. So we need. I would have thought because it's a mitzvah say shazman grama sheyesh bo karet, and therefore we treat it like a lav, and therefore it should be obligated. Kamash malan osa below osa. A third suggestion from the Ritva, the Ramban, that when do we say a woman's pater from Zman Grama? That's when a sukkah, lulav, and she herself is doing it. She's sitting in the sukkah, she's taking the lulav. But here, it's not on her, the milah, she's doing it on her son. So therefore, I would have thought the exemption of Zman Grama doesn't apply. It only applies when she's doing it. Kamash malan, therefore I need the pasuk also. to tell me that even though it's not on her and it's on the son, God commanded Abraham and not Sarah, and therefore she's exempt. That's the Ritva and the Ramban. There's a fourth answer from the Tosas Harid. The Tosas Harid basically redefines the texture of the mitzvah. That he basically considers the mitzvah like a floating obligation, a floating achrayas. In other words, the obligation isn't the cutting off of the foreskin. The mitzvah is to ensure that the meal will get done. That starts on day one. You have to call up the moel, you have to get a doctor, you have to get the caterer working. So basically, it's not just limited to day 8. You have to make sure the meal happens. So if it's not limited to the act of cutting, so it's not as mangrama, like the first answer in Tosas, and therefore a woman would be obligated. Kamash malan osa v'lo osa. That's answer number 4. Answer number 5 is a Turi Even. In a different context, he's talking in Chagiga about smicha by karbanos, but we'll just keep it relevant to our topic. So the Turi Even writes, there's a fundamental difference. When do we say a woman is exempt from Zman Grama? So let's say Lulav this year. This year, the mitzvah is over. Next year, there'll be a new mitzvah. Last year, there was a different mitzvah. Each year, it's a new mitzvah every year. So therefore, a woman's exempt. But by Mila, it's a one-time shot. It's not that... In other words, let's say, why can't I do Mila at night? It's not because the mitzvah Mila at night disappeared and now I'm getting a new mitzvah the next day. It's just temporarily suspended. When do we say you have a Zman Grama? When is a woman exempt from a time-oriented mitzvah? When there's an absolute cancellation. When the mitzvah's canceled, okay, Lulav's over, okay, the next sukkah you're obligated again. So then you say women are exempt. But on a one-time shot, something which is temporarily suspended, but the same chiyuv is still there, that the same chiyuv is only one obligation of Mila, so that perhaps a woman, I would say, is not exempt from. Kamash malan, I need also osam. That's why they explain the Rambam Shita, by the mitzvah of binyan beis hamikdash, by the mitzvah of building the beis hamikdash, the Rambam writes men and women are obligated. But they ask on the Rambam, but he says the mitzvah of building the beis hamikdash is only biyom but not balayla. It's only counting during the day and not at night, and therefore that would make it a time-oriented mitzvah, and a woman should be exempt. So based on this Turi Even, the answer is no. Just like that by the mitzvah of binyan beis hamikdash, it's not that the mitzvah stops at night. It's just temporarily suspended, and therefore a woman's exemption of Zman Grama is only in an absolute cancellation. But here the mitzvah continues the next day, the same mitzvah, and therefore it's not considered as Zman Grama. So to Mila is not considered as Zman Grama, and therefore a woman, I would think a woman would be obligated. Kamash malan, that we see also v'lo osa. And other answers they give to the Rambam, that when do we say a woman is exempt? That's from a chovas hayachid, that's from a personal obligation. But a chovas hatzibur, like building the beis hamikdash, there's no exemption as Zman Grama. So we see the bottom line is woman is exempt from the obligation of circumcising her son, whether it's Zman Grama or based on the pasuk. So, just to summarize, we started off with Sipporah doing the Bris Milah. That's a question according to the opinion of the Gemara about Zara, who says a woman is pasul limo. How could Sipporah have done the Bris Milah? So the Gemara gives two answers. Either she didn't do it, she appointed a shliach, or A2, that she began it and Moshe finished it. And apparently for the mitzvah of Milah, someone whose pasul begins, the end is the key. Maybe we see like the Doshis that say the mitzvah isn't just the Milah, but the mitzvah is the result, and therefore that's why even if a woman began, there wouldn't be a problem. We say even though a woman, the two opinions in the Gemara, whether she's pasol or not. We paskin she's not pasol. However, we see she's not obligated either. As the Gemara, as we learned in the Gemara in Kedushin, that the Gemara says a woman is exempt based on oso v'lo osa. That God commanded Avram and not Sarah. We said, but it's a time-oriented mitzvah. So we gave many answers. Tosas and Kedushin says it's not a time-oriented mitzvah because you can do it at night and on Shabbos after the time, and therefore you need a pasuk to tell me why she's exempt. Or Tosas and Megillah, because it's an aseh sheyesh bo kareh, so therefore it's like a negative commandment, and a woman is exempt. Therefore I need the pasuk to tell me, therefore she'd be obligated. I need the pasuk to exempt her. Or we have the Ritva and the Ramban, that she's only exempt if it's on her, but now here it's on her son. I would have thought she'd be chayev. Kamash no. Or as we said, we have Tosas redefining the texture of the mitzvah that gets done, and therefore that applies all the time. Or like the Turi Even, we only say a woman's exempt when it's an absolute cancellation from year to year. But Mila, even though she can't do it at night, but it's this temporary canceled, like the Turi Even writes by the Bidner Beis HaMikdash, a woman achayah, because it's the same chiyuv. So we see, even though a woman, we paskin can do it, but she's clearly not obligated. And as we know, the minhag is that men do the bris milah, since it's a shaila, whether different, it's a discussion whether a woman can be kasha limo in the Gemara and later. So when we have a choice, we go with the man to avoid the suffix. However, in a case where there's no other option, so we paskin halach lamaisa that an isha is ksheira lamo.